Hello and welcome to It's All Virtual with Lucy Jessica.
And Rob Chandler. So, Lucy, Jessica, what is It's All Virtual about?
It's All Virtual kind of pulls back the curtain on virtual production, kind of using virtual production in television, movies, advertising, social and brand content and much more.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So is it just virtual production, or is it like we're going to do lots of different things?
I think we'll talk about lots of different things.
Oh, that'd be cool, eh? Yeah, I think to your point, it's a really interesting new sort of technology for all of those sectors. Advertising, say, social media, film. Someone's been using it for some time. A broadcaster has been using it for forever and ever. But certainly now the technology has sort of become a bit more democratized, and it's not as inaccessible as it used to be, which means that small organisations and business and brands can use it. But the technology, I think, can be a bit be a bit mystifying.
It's
right?
pretty confusing, and I think that's kind of what we're wanting to do with this podcast, right? We're wanting to kind of help people understand it in a much clearer and easier way.
Yeah, and I think the other really interesting thing is that I come from a world of not really knowing too much about it. I've sort of been around for 3 years, but you...
I'm fresh on the scene.
Right, so we're going to sort of learn this stuff together as well, right? So that sort of adds a little dimension to it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get people in.
Mm-hmm. Lots of fun guests.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about what we've been up to as well, which would be pretty cool. And I think, one of the biggest challenges for most people, considering using virtual production, is the sort of techie speak that can come out.
Because it's quite scary, isn't it? It's quite intimidating.
Well, that's the word
when people talk to us about it.
Yeah, that was a word you used the other day, wasn't it? It's intimidating. And you can't help that with the new technology. Technologists use words that just don't come up in normal speak.
Normal
like
conversation.
NITS, right? Or XR, or, lots of acronyms as well. So really trying to demystify that side of things, I think, will be pretty cool as well.
Can you please tell me about Starting Pixel?
Oh, yeah, I can talk you about Starting Pixel. So Starting Pixel is a group of 550 and growing rapidly. People who are interested in virtual production, who work in virtual production, who would like to work in virtual production. From around the world, so there's about 50 countries represented, including Nepal and Qatar, which is great. So it sort of indicates the breadth of interest in this sort of new, disruptive and accessible technology as well to make content. The types of content, film, advertising, broadcast, social, brands, all sorts of things as well. And it was started really to be able to demystify and also get communications going between lots of thought leaders and disseminate information. And on the group, it's a WhatsApp group at the moment, and there are different groups. There's the main group where you can ask for urgent help if you're on set and something's not working, or you can post something about the latest in color spacing of particular LED walls. And how the newer lenses...
there's lots of questions and answers and information on there, isn't there? And articles posted?
Articles get posted as well. We have groups on location capture, because that's a big thing. Digital twins of locations that will start to come live soon. There's digital humans, where they talk about the digitalization of humans, funnily enough, but that will come at some point, right? These kinds of tools that will be help to tell stories, which is what we all try and do as well.
And people sharing lots of events on there and work opportunities.
People have got jobs from working together as well as work as well. So it's it's a great community that really shares and gives back to each other as well, which is amazing.
It's that amazing network of people, isn't it? That
it really
you can call on anyone, and that you'll get help with anything.
Absolutely, and it's free to join. I mean, there is a patron you can be as well if you can part with a small amount of money on a month to keep the lights on.
Keep us doing what we're doing.
Absolutely, right? So there's a Patreon as well, but it's free to join, and it always will be. But we do events and lots of other things as well. So yeah, it's really exciting times. Yeah.
So this week's been pretty interesting. What did we get up to on Wednesday?
Oh, what past week? Yeah, so we did. We went to Lille.
Went to Lille.
We did.
On the Eurostar?
That was easier to get to Lille than it was to get to this podcast studio, wasn't
it? I know.
And it was so simple.
I think it was quicker as well.
It pretty was. Yeah. So, and what were we doing in Lille?
So we went to the Series Mania event and listened to a lot of great talks, actually, didn't we?
Yeah. So Series Mania, for people who don't know, Series Mania is it's where people take and pitch their
stories,
episodic
podcasts,
films,
books.
To see if they can get commissioned by producers, right? I think that's sort of what it was. And it was in Lille, so it was in France. So there's quite a bias towards the continent and France, but lots of English speakers as well. And there was some really...
And Americans as well.
Oh, was there?
There was quite
who
a few.
knew?
I know.
Who knew Americans
There we
travel,
go.
right? I know. So there was, so we did that. And we went to this quite interesting one on podcasts, which is...
And it was about... podcasts going to screen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Turning their podcasts or audiobooks, as we
Yes.
thought, into series or short films, and kind of pitching it to the producers that were in the room.
Yeah.
But
And
everybody seemed quite engaged, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
It's
No, it was really,
interesting.
really interesting. And I think I think that's one of the where the magic of virtual production can come into, because it doesn't, I think, need to be as expensive as a lot of people think it will be. As well, or producing that type of content, or even taking it to a sort of a next level, that it's you're trying to do a proof of concept, but it's a visual proof of concept rather than people trying to commission stuff off the page, which I think is a really challenging thing to do. And it's a big risk, right? It's like,
and also people, like, it's the kind of this whole thing of the unknown. Nobody actually knows what's possible, but with virtual production, most things can be possible, right?
Well, yeah. So, but some things can't be, and I think that's where that risk part
and kind of blurring the actual reality.
Yeah, because
concepts of it.
One of the questions in the panel session that I was in, if you remember, do you remember that?
No,
Okay.
kind of like
no. So
blurs
that was the reason why we were there. We weren't just to go and see Series Mania, right? But it was just literally we were on a panel, or I was on a panel, and I think one of the last questions to the panel was, what's the hesitance, the reticence, what's stopping people adopting virtual production? And it is fear. In my experience, I haven't been doing it very long, but DOPs, directors, producers, to choose a new technology is a career challenging thing.
That they're not used to at all.
Right, so it's a big risk, right? It's like, someone says, oh, let's use virtual production, and it's like, and then someone starts talking to them about Unreal Engine, and is it expensive?
And I think it kind of boggles their mind, doesn't it?
Right.
They get a bit...
Right. Well, who wouldn't? When I say, so here's an anecdote, one of many. The word expensive, right, in virtual production isn't a money value. It's how much the GPU, which is for people who don't know, it is a card that sits in a computer that helps with all the graphics. That when a scene is expensive, it's using a lot of processing power. It's not expensive. So we had conversations when someone was saying this is really expensive, and somebody who didn't know that term was going, well, that's fine, we'll find the money. And it's like, and the thing is that this was a person who'd been making films for 20 or 30 years. That person didn't want to feel an idiot.
Of course.
Right? And it's like, so you sort of have to demystify these terms as well. So, no one wants a 20-year-old telling them terms that they don't know, and then making, internally feeling a bit of an idiot. So I think that was a really interesting, and fear, because it could be career limiting, and using this type of technology, or certainly virtual production, certain things you can shoot, pretty much anywhere, but you can't necessarily do the types of photography that you can do if you're on location somewhere.
Yeah, and I also think it's potentially quite intimidating to other crew members. Like when we were on a shoot a couple of weeks ago and we were speaking to a set dresser, she had absolutely no idea kind of about using virtual production in the world of the unreal, and she was very afraid that virtual production is going to come along and take her job away.
Yeah.
But we kind of put it into a clearer perspective for her, and we're like, it's actually a tool that they can use kind of to work with instead of against, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, progress is fearful, right? You know, lots of stuff in the news about artificial intelligence at the moment as well, and everyone's fearful of their jobs. But technology has always been there. You know, we went from from horse-drawn carriages to internal combustion engines, and there were lots of farriers, stables. Suddenly, you know, over a period of time, you know, they didn't have that job anymore. That industry really died, and it died quite quickly. I think the really interesting thing about that example, she was really positive about it in the end, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't she? She sort of
it completely changed her.
Right, when
it?
you explained that actually it's her job to decide what the virtual plant is, or it should be her job.
And to take it out or to move it about, turn it around. It's,
yeah, exactly.
You know, at one click of a button.
Right, and who else is? Because if you don't do that, you'll leave it to the techie to do. Now, best will in the world, techies are absolutely brilliant, but they're not known for their set dressing experience.
No, of course.
Right, especially if they're in their 20s or 30s. Well, someone who's been doing it for 20 or 30 years is, all right? And I think that was a really good insight you sort of picked up there, is that, you know, trying that is that demystification. Who owns that part of that process as well? It's like that she can, you know, as a set dresser or as the art department, really own that side of things as well.
But also kind of not getting rid of like real life set dressing completely, because you still need that, you know, depth. You still need everything in the foreground to create
absolutely
those shots.
Right. I mean, that's the magic, right? There's a couple of things that really bring virtual production alive. You know, whether or not you use an LED wall or green screen.
You have to find things that kind of work hand in hand, don't you?
Yeah, and the thing is that the things in the foreground, if they're real, they look real. And the buns in the background, you know, they're slightly softer focused, they're slightly out of, and you're not, and
but that's what you need it for. You don't need it to do anything else.
No, exactly. So it's, you know, it's as a back plate, for sure. So, you know, it's a lot more forgiving. You know, a lot of things are out of focus as well. So, and the audience isn't really looking at it either. You know, they're really looking at the action. So yeah, that was a really insightful thing actually. We talked to her about that, which was pretty cool. Huh? That was an interesting shoot, right? So
really interesting.
Can you remember tell us about that, how that shoot was?
So it was for a rum company, and I think none of them, including the director, had ever used virtual production before, right? And even the director kind of came to us multiple times and was like, I just can't believe that we can have 40 odd sunsets and sunrises in the time span of half an hour?
Yeah, so we sort of time lapsed.
Yeah,
didn't we? That was the key thing they really wanted, is they wanted a time lapse, but they didn't want to put it into post production.
They wanted it kind of real time.
Right. Yeah. So there's this term, in camera VFX, which is IC VFX. You might see it written around. So, for people who don't know, and that's in essence what you're trying to achieve with virtual production, is that everything is in the camera, and you're not doing it as much in post production. I think they were aiming to do the grade for obvious reasons in post, because they needed to make the bottle look, you know, perfect and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, what they were trying to shoot was unfilmable.
Yeah.
Right. You know,
I mean, that would have been across 40 days, right?
Right. Exactly, and the right weather.
With different weather, yeah.
Right. So it was absolutely unfilmable, where you had this sun or the moon going across the sky, and the director was like choosing where should we move it over slightly, should we speed it up, should we slow it down?
A bit more orangey colours, a bit more
right.
red.
So there's a big thing about, no, it must be the gold now, which is really exciting as well. And it's we can do that. So I think those are the types of really interesting things that you can do.
And also it was great because the client could actually see it pan out on their screens, couldn't they, instead of waiting however long for the edit to come through.
Absolutely. And I think even the director was having an edit done live on the show, so you could actually show the client on set how it was progressing
exactly,
and what it was
kind of what we were
like.
filming.
Which was amazing. You just wouldn't be able to do that, which is pretty cool. So that
and kind of having those live notes as well, because
Yeah.
I mean, I've done shoots when it's gone into edit and then you've come back and they're like, oh, actually it'd be great if we could change that, and then you're kind of planning more and more days shooting,
Right.
which is not cost effective.
Right, exactly, exactly. So that's the big challenge, right? Is that suddenly you see stuff and you can't do that. But having that edit, and the editor can also pick up, go, oh, actually we're missing this. No one picked up on this. We're missing this sort of shot. Let's do that shot.
Yeah, well, that doesn't look quite right, or that's a bit out of focus.
Exactly, and that sort of really does lean itself to being able to do that, which was just which was pretty awesome as well. And then we a couple of weeks ago on a Wednesday we shot something as well.
Yes, it was
can you remember what that was?
Funky clowning shoot, wasn't it?
Clowning
Which
shoot. It was a clowning
very
shoot.
different.
Yeah. Can you remember what it was called?
It was, I can't think of what the name of it was, but it was for a pitch because they were going to the Fringe festivals.
That's right.
So it's for all of their social media content.
That's right. It was.
And kind of to make a mini trailer for them.
Yeah.
But it was quite bizarre having clowns in the studio.
Right. And so the interesting thing about that, wasn't it, is that we sort of did this hybrid because we used the green screen virtual production side of things as well as the LED wall.
Yeah. To make their topsy-turvy, upside-downy world, right?
Yeah, right. So,
Mr. Cardboard.
That was it, Mr. Cardboard. So, look out for it. Look out for Mr. Cardboard. So, come into a Fringe Festival screen soon. So that was really interesting because we used this sort of hybrid sort of system as well. The downside is that it was explained to them, obviously, with green screen, you can't wear anything green. And
they came in all green.
Yeah. But they really liked it in the end because it sort of disappeared. So they sort of lent into it a bit, right?
It kind of worked for their kind of vibe, didn't it?
Kind of thing. But that was really interesting. So we did sort of two. So we've got footage, or they've got footage of both using that and the green screen side of things as well, and the LED wall.
And also when they were on the LED wall, kind of the actors themselves being able to see their background, to see the world that they were in, it really added to their performance, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's quite hard sometimes with actors on green screens because they are just playing to nothing.
Well, normally, yeah. So the virtual production type of green screen is that, traditionally, if people don't know, listeners are knowing, in a traditional VFX pipeline, you would film someone on green screen and all of the backgrounds would be put in post-production. So as you say, no one really knows what they're doing. Everything has to be in the director's head. He has to explain it really well to the talent. He has to understand, the DOP have to really understand all that kind of thing as well. So it's really, really tough. However, with that type of virtual production, the green screen is that you can do something called previs. So previs, pre-visualization, if you don't know. But what that does is it allows you to put monitors up and actually everyone on the set can actually
and then kind of come out and see what's going on, couldn't
exactly
they?
Right.
Where are we now? Are we in cardboard land? Are we in the sky?
And I think the really interesting thing about that is that they everyone really switches to instantly start looking at these monitors and really understanding where they are. So the benefits of using green screen in that scenario is that you've obviously got the pre-visualization, which you can just record. So if it's the type of content that doesn't need a huge amount lift in post-production, and you've got the final sort of CGI locked, you can just push the record button and use it as final footage. But the other benefit of using that is that you can also take it into post-production. So you can swap out the CGI.
Of course, you could put them in a different world, couldn't you?
Kind of thing. And we'll talk about camera tracking on a later episode and stuff like that, on the types of things you can do with that. So there's two different worlds of LED walls and green screens as well. And that was a really interesting. Fun. It was a fun day as well, right?
So we've just started these things called open lens sessions.
Oh yeah.
And if you want to get involved, just visit the Starting Pixel website. All of the information is on there. Do you want to tell us really quickly about open lens sessions?
Open lens sessions, really easy. You just get hands on, or you get to watch basically the magic. So every Wednesday you can come down, whether or not you just want to observe, so you can sort of see a shoot in action, or you're a camera operator or a DOP, and you just want to play around with filming something for real.
Yeah. And it's such a great opportunity because it, you know, for them to understand virtual production a little bit more.
Yeah, right. So people have read about it. People have been on it. They might have been on a shoot, but not been.
It's like seeing it real.
Yeah, and getting hands on it, so you can ask questions and all that. So they're a really safe environment where no question is a stupid question, unless I ask it generally, because I should know. But
and with people all in the same boat.
Totally right, and everyone's excited, and they get their heads around it, and it's. The analogy I use is that it's a bit like going from driving a car to driving a bus. All of the bits are in the right place. You've got a steering wheel, you've got gears, it's all got tyres and stuff.
Yep.
But you wouldn't get in a bus and expect to be able to drive it immediately, right? You just need a bit of experience, understanding, someone to take you around the block.
Yep.
And that's what Open Lens Session's about. And it's one of the only places, if not the place, anywhere that you can actually come and film something. So we've got themes that we have every single week, and we will create and we will camera roll as well. So it's not just a demo, it's actually everyone's hands on.
And they get that project to,
and they can, if they want to get that
them.
project, and they can take away and edit it and use it in their show reel as well. Yeah, we did a sort of a proof of concept for a chemist, didn't we? Whereas they currently film in store.
With customers walking everywhere, kind of looking, what's going on there?
And dealing with the audio of a store, with the echoes and everything like that, right? It's like that was a real challenge. So we did this really fast. I mean,
in a couple of hours, right?
It was
only like
literally
2 or 3 hours.
It's nuts. Just to build this chemist shop.
Yeah.
We had one of the technical artists. So technical artist, if you don't know, they use something called Unreal Engine a lot of the time. There's a bunch of other programs as well, but predominantly this technology called Unreal Engine, which is a gaming platform. Traditionally, you build computer games on it. Fortnite, you played Fortnite, I'm sure. People who are listening either played it or their kids play it. And it's all built on this platform called Unreal Engine. So Unreal Engine, technical artists basically build the environments, but they don't build games.
They're like worlds, aren't they?
Kind of, yeah. So that's what you'd normally do if you were building a game, you'd build because the person's running around shooting stuff and zombies are going to jump out and all that kind of shenanigans. Whereas with a film set, you're just building a set. It's like it's as if you were building a location set, but without wood, paint and nails. You're just using bits and bytes and stuff.
Popping it all together.
And just popping it all together. It's that easy.
Technical terms.
Exactly, right? And it's a little bit harder than that, but it's not sort of. It depends, right? It
depends who's doing it.
It depends on
if we did it.
If we did it, that's true. We would struggle.
It would take a long
right,
time.
It would take, it would definitely take, and it would look pretty bad as well.
Yeah.
I think, so you get someone good to do it first of all. So find someone who's actually quite good at this kind of stuff. Give them a really good brief. That's the other thing. So briefs can vary. And if they're used to building games, you just need to make sure that they're not building a game.
Yep.
You're building a set, just a room.
And before they get carried away.
Right? Exactly, right? Because they could end up building this amazing world that you can, and it's like you use one corner of one room. And that's a lot of time and
it's out of focus.
Yeah, exactly. It ends up being out of focus. And they've made a football boot absolutely so perfect. Look at my football boot, and it's this out of focus blob in the background. Find a really good technical artist. So they build these worlds in Unreal, right? And then you can film them. So for that chemist, we then built sort of an idea for a virtual
like a
chemist, pharmacy kind of thing, which then meant that you could then film in this controlled environment. Things like sound, things like camera angles and lighting, timing. Again, it's a bit like the previous one. You can have it, you can shoot all day long. You're not worried about the sun going anywhere or someone turning off or, a member of the public walking through. And that was, they'd be really interested in that.
And a safe, studio environment.
Right, exactly. Everyone knows where they're coming and all that kind of stuff as well. So I think that's really important. That sort of flexibility versus the agility. And of course, not with them, but, you can, actually going back to the previous one, the drinks company, we changed from daytime to nighttime.
Multiple times.
Right, and how long did that take?
Like a Click, right?
Like alert. Yeah, that's a technical term. It was a bit longer than that, but it wasn't like
a couple.
It wasn't waiting for that.
No.
It wasn't waiting for nighttime, right? That was the funny thing.
Wow, that was such a great first episode.
That was a great first episode.
So much going on, so much information, right?
It's very cool.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching and listening to It's All Virtual. And don't forget to follow us, like and subscribe, and join our Starting Pixel WhatsApp community.